Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, no-bid prisons. Also, the V-Team takes a look at Coleman's secrets. And Speaker Mike Hubbard is not granted his stay. No stay for you, but you can jailhouse rock.
Walking through a party in the county jail. The prison band was there, they began to wail. The band was jumping and the joint began to swing. You should have heard the knocked out jailbird sing, let it rock. Everybody let it rock. Everybody in the whole cell block was dancing to the jailhouse rock. Everybody.
All this and much, much more coming up next on The V.
The Voice of Alabama Politics, with your host, Bill Brett. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome all.
Good morning. Glad to be back with y'all.
It is so good to see you.
It's been such a busy session. We have missed you so much.
Had to have a little hiatus. Been busy.
It seems like a month of Sundays.
I guess that's what your viewers are saying.
Well, we heard from people near and far, and they missed you, and Beth had to chime in with.
Oh, I used egregious every time. Don't
okay,
worry.
well, that's
the
good.
mantle was carried.
But you had to because there's been a lot of egregious things going on since I've been off the set.
I just have to stop the habit now and let you do it.
There absolutely is. I tell you, one of the most shocking things of the week, and depending on which side of the fence you're on, a good thing, the Criminal Court of Appeals took only 3 days to deny Speaker Mike Hubbard's writ of mandamus to stay his trial. Beth, you have a very simple explanation of what a writ of mandamus is.
Right. All this is basically going to the higher court and asking them to tell the judge to do something. It's like when you're a kid and you go to your mom, you say, "Mom, make him stop." Like, that's all a writ of mandamus is. And so, you know, when you go tattletale on a brother or sister, you better hope you're right, because if you're not and they get in trouble, you're going to get your butt kicked. And that's kind of what I think is going to happen here. They just went and tattletaled on Judge Walker and said he's not playing by the rules. And the appeals court said, looks good to me.
So this is like a
Nuh-uh, yeah.
Claire, I mean, to move that quick, I mean, they just don't usually move quickly.
Well, I mean, there was really, you know, you had one or two, or one that recused themselves that needed to. But I mean, everybody, this has been ongoing for over 2 years. And there's been tactic after tactic after tactic to try to delay this case. And I mean, it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah. I mean, Susan, we had to read it twice when it came through that quickly, though, didn't we?
We did. And it was a unanimous vote. There was only one recusal, of course, that was Wyndham. But the rest of the justices agreed unanimously to concur with this. And it was something you had to read twice, because there was more than just one issue in there. They not only denied the writ, they also denied an argument.
Yeah, one of the things they did, and this was the defense trying to be cute like they have in the past,
Right.
They filed everything under seal, and how they did it is they put in some grand jury stuff, and they want to keep it under seal. And so they finally agreed on a redaction. They sent it to the court on Monday. Boom, they ruled on it. What we think, Beth, is in those documents is where they ruled on selective prosecution, a vindictive prosecution, and the unconstitutionality of the state law. We think that's what was there.
Right, yeah, we can only speculate because it was filed under seal.
Right.
And, you know, I will say that typically in criminal court appeals, you know, if you request oral arguments, that slows the process down tremendously too. So that could have even been another delay tactic. And the fact that the court was able to determine this without even letting them come in and plead their case, that shows it was cut and dry. Requesting oral arguments was just another step to try to slow this whole process down going towards trial.
Well, and I think, like you say, I think it's also important because majority of these people are Republican elected judges. And they, you know, I'm proud of them because what they've done is they've upheld the law, they've done the right thing, and they've not played politics with this.
Right, and you know, just last Thursday, I think it was Thursday or Wednesday, not this week, but the week past, some of the Republican leadership in the House were walking around saying that Baron Coleman was going to be a hero. It doesn't look like anything is stopping this train. We're going to trial, it looks like.
It looks like.
Well, justice denied, justice delayed. It's time to move on with it. This has been way too long.
Absolutely. Well, we got to give credit to Judge Walker. He is moving this thing ahead quickly. One of the things he did this week, he also ordered our former colleague, Baron Coleman, to turn over his tapes and any emails he had. It said the emails were not necessarily from he and Hart. But Claire, how popular are folks who secretly record other folks in the State House?
Well, we've seen a line of history of different House members, senators, and traditionally those people that go around tape recording people have not lived past that election cycle, okay? I mean, we remember what Barry Mass did. We remember what Senator Beeson, those are just some that out there in the last 8 years might know about. You don't go around tape recording your colleagues in conference meetings and caucus meetings, I'd say. But
Because nobody can trust you anymore.
Right. I mean, it's just like Baron Coleman. Who would ever trust him? Now, granted, he used to sit beside me now, and y'all all know I didn't really trust him then. But, I mean, I think his goose is cooked, and he might as well pack his bags and head out of the state of Alabama.
Well, you know, somebody leaked a copy of part of the tape to Chuck Dean, just a little snippet. I mean, Susan, do you think Baron Coleman would hold back, or would he fire all his big guns up front?
He wouldn't hold back. Baron likes to
We
shoot
all know
everything.
him.
He likes to shoot everything he's got in his gun. Because this has been going on for over a month now, and he's been claiming, oh, I'm going to be vindicated, I'm going to be vindicated. If he had any more than what he's already released, he would have made sure that somebody else leaked the Chuck Dean too. At least that's my opinion of the man that I know.
Yeah, well, it's just...
But remember, Susan, he barely knows any
I
Jack
know,
or
I
any
know.
of us at all.
Yeah, he
so-
didn't know Jack Coleman. I mean, Jack
Campbell. You keep trying to marry them.
Well, you know...
They were together, married,
they were
more than
close.
married folks
I think
at the
they
time.
were,
He was
yeah.
denying it.
Well, yeah, we were all working together, campaigns and
Yeah,
all around
exactly.
here, and it raises everybody's eyebrow if somebody goes and does something like that. Something is very fishy.
Trust is such a rare commodity around here anyway. You know, even people who are your friends, you still kind of sleep with one eye open. And so when you've got somebody
That's
who...
if you're sleeping with your friends.
Well, I mean, wherever you are, you keep an eye open. You always keep a look over your shoulder. And so it's just, this kind of thing makes you question the whole
It does.
environment.
Well,
It does.
there again, back to the old cliche, politics makes strange bedfellows.
Yeah, it
does.
Fellows. So, does it go back to Mike Hubbard and Barron and their initial conversation, and then Barron's a spy and a mole with us for
and
years,
then
and now he's back? I don't believe it. I think that there was something that might have changed hands, but we shall see.
Yeah, we'll
we
see.
can-
I mean, there's a judge ordered an investigation. Matt Hart said they were opening a criminal
And
investigation.
this always makes you go back and look at things that you've had in the past, the conversations, and
Sure,
whatever.
we only got about a minute. I want to talk about this. Auburn dropped IMG, Hubbard's former company, for Fox Sports. And I'm hearing out of Auburn that this means that Mike Hubbard's radio station will not get the rights to broadcast Auburn Sports. They won't get the printing. They won't get diddly squat. He's already hurting for money. This has got to be hurt.
This has got to be
bad.
hurting
War
because he's been
Eagle.
able to sell the advertising around the Jumbotrons. He's been able to sell it around broadcast rights to having these games. My understanding is that his radio station is the weaker of the two signals in Auburn.
Oh, it's-
And when you're on game
like
day,
a
they have the kids with the program books.
Yeah.
There's a coming out of a big cardboard box that says Craftmaster Printing on the side of
Now,
it.
that's all going to stop.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it looks like, and I was told this by a top-ranking Auburn individual who said the university has finally woken up that they were good for Mike Hubbard, but Mike Hubbard was never good for them.
And let's face it, Fox National Sports News is going to be great for Auburn University. I'm saying I'm an Auburn person, but what he was offering and producing for them was not sufficient compared to what Fox News
Well,
Sports News
it's going to be a new day. War Eagle, right?
War Eagle.
All right, we're going to hold it right there. You're watching the V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Everybody, let's rock. Everybody in old Sailor Bluff was dancing to the jail rock.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, this past week, the House passed the largest education trust fund budget basically in the history of the state. I mean, it was a blockbuster budget, and it was passed unanimously. Both Democrats and Republicans were on board. There was a bunch of goodies in there, even for teachers.
There was a bunch of goodies in there. There's a 4% pay increase for anyone employed that is under, I think, $72,000 or $75,000 a year, which is going to cover most teachers, lunchroom workers, bus drivers, and all of that. We've got some padding in some other areas. We've got also a promise of doing PHIP without it costing any more to the teachers, and also it may in the future avoid any deductibles that they have. Now, there's only one problem that I see. I mean, it fills a bunch of holes, which is great. But here's the problem. We're not funding. Bentley had talked about getting some of this education trust fund money for Medicaid. Now, we're going to have teachers getting a 4% raise, which I'm all for because teachers need more of a raise than that. But meanwhile, the children that are sitting in their rooms are going to be having their benefits cut because we can't fund Medicaid.
Right.
But I mean, Claire, was Mike sending the governor a message when he said, I'm just going to spend all the money so that $170 million you wanted out of education, it's not there, nana boo-boo. I mean, is there something?
I think there's a lot of truth to that, and there's a lot of rumor. And of course, this past week on the Hill, you kept hearing from House and Senate members and the governor even saying that we were going to have a special session in summer, June, July of 2016, which here we've got conventions going on. And but I have to say, there's been some senators that say, take the general fund budget and take all these nonprofit status, all these industries, and everybody gets these tax breaks, and we can fix Medicaid.
Well, Beth, what do you
At least somebody's talking a
The
solution.
biggest thing I'm seeing on this budget is, the Democrats got a lot of things that we've been pushing for. We've got the pre-K, we've got increased classroom supplies. But one thing is, we had 9 Republicans vote with Democrats on Representative Lindsay's amendment to try to give some kind of a pay raise to the retirees. These people are put their life into teaching our children. They have not gotten a pay raise in 10 years. Cost of living has gone up. So we've got to find some way in there. If we're looking to spend money, let's give a little bit of something to the retirees while we're at it.
Well, retirees, basically, they just said, you don't exist, is what it looks like to me.
I mean, we've got crises and problems at hand.
Yeah.
We got to deal with the education system we've got. I'm sorry, and I know they did a lot, but, to me, the forefront is the soldiers, the foot soldiers that are teaching out there today.
Right.
And the
I
children.
agree.
I mean,
I agree. But I think there can be a balance in there somewhere.
Well,
maybe the Senate will do something.
I always worry if Mike Hubbard's behind something this big, and all the Democrats agree, and all the Republicans agree. They're just not that agreeable, Claire.
There's been some goodies that have been handed out, and there's been some promises that have been made. You can rest assured of that.
Yeah, and all those nice little trips, these foreign trips that some of your Democratic friends have accepted, that's pretty nice. Their souls come awfully cheap to Mike Hubbard, but hey, everybody's got a price, I guess.
Well, that's what some people say.
Yeah, well.
And that's what I think my former colleague said.
Well, I don't think I don't.
Yeah.
There's some of us that there isn't enough.
There's no
price.
Enough
There's
money.
not a price
There
high
might
enough.
be a price, but it's not called money.
No.
It's called, you have to be honorable and do.
You've got to
all
have a
that.
moral compass,
That's
and
right.
we need more people with that.
Marsh has been pushing this tenure reform. We talk about education getting a raise. Now, Beth, it's going to take you 5 years to get tenured and all this other stuff. Who would want to be a teacher in Alabama?
Right, they're making it awfully hard. And I mean, Susan hit on a good point earlier when you look at, we're tying teachers' pay to student performance, all the while we're cutting Medicaid. So if you've got kids who are sick and not able to get the care they need, or they're hungry and they're not able to qualify for, SNAP benefits or whatever the problems are, there's so many things that go into giving a child an education besides the teacher doing a job at making quality lesson plans. Like, we've got to look at the whole picture here when it comes to educating our kids, not just did the teacher teach these kids to pass a test.
Well, I agree with that, but philosophically, let me back up. I think I have to as a Republican. How about parents having a little input, maybe codifying, helping their children, feeding them, helping them study?
Wouldn't that be
getting them-
nice?
I mean, I do it every day as a single mother of 3 children. I'm not really sure why half of these parents out here can't do that for their children.
Well,
and it's unfortunate that they don't.
It has become that the state has
Wardens
the
of
burden.
the state?
the burden is on the state to raise a lot of these children. It's wrong.
It's wrong, but then again, it's not the child's fault.
No, it's
that
not.
their parent is not.
No child chooses the home they're born into.
And this,
That's correct.
it's our responsibility to make sure that this child has a fighting chance despite its circumstances at home.
But I agree. Some of these things in this 10-year reform, they kind of make sense. But what scares me is teaching to the test. They're not learning. Of course, if my teachers had taught to the test, I might have made better grades, but they didn't. They just threw a test out.
Well, I just think that's the wrong kind of education to get, is teach to the test.
They're teaching them to memorize. I can memorize anything for a couple of days, then it's gone.
Yeah.
Most anybody's capable of that. You've got to teach them
Y'all
to think.
watch me sit here copying down notes just so I can regurgitate it for a test tonight. That's exactly what I've been doing.
But reading, writing, math, those are the hardcore issues.
Problem solving. We've got to teach kids problem solving.
Right.
Well, the guy from that show Mythbusters, he said, if you institute shop and band again, there's a lot of kids that learn a lot more than they've been doing. We got about 2 minutes, and these are very controversial issues, and the whole pro-life abortion issue is such a hot button, and it's such a personal and deeply troubling issue on all sides, I think.
Right.
But we had 2 related bills this week. One that you couldn't sell fetal parts, and the other one saying, if you heard a heartbeat, you couldn't have an abortion. Beth, my understanding is there are already federal laws that cover selling fetal parts.
Right. Well, and I don't know if they're federal laws or they're state, but I know that here in Alabama it's already illegal, and we just spent how many dollars suing in a lawsuit with Planned Parenthood over this. I mean, it's a waste of space. It's red meat for the base. And, I think someone said on the floor during debate that we don't want women just breeding so they can sell their fetal tissue to make profits. And that's offensive to women. It's disgusting that somebody would think that. I mean, I can't help but just get worked up because, every fetus protected should be a child that is fed and sheltered and cared for. And if we could have that in the state of Alabama, we'd be in a lot better position.
But to the point that you made, let's go back to the last quadrennium. And I remember particular state Senate representatives passing these bills. We know these bills are unconstitutional.
They're gonna cost
then
money.
The Attorney General has to spend millions of dollars fighting these cases. Why in the world are we trying to put them forth again? I'm a Republican. I'm a mother of 3, so I'm pro-life. But the bottom line is, this is not something that they should be dealing and wasting legislative time
You can
and
be
money with.
pro-life and have common sense.
Absolutely.
Right.
But they have got to stop spending this money. We are in serious deficit. We're talking about cutting health care costs for children now, and they're playing politics with our Alabama state
and can
budgets.
we please
It's
get
egregious.
comprehensive
That's the
sex
bottom
ed?
line.
It is.
Comprehensive sex
These
ed.
bills to me
Yes,
are
comprehensive
egregious.
sex
I'm
ed.
sorry.
And take care of them after they're
Well,
born. Don't
listen.
cry about them before they're born.
We're going to have to let everybody cool down a little bit. We'll be right back. 3 hot-headed women. I'm in a rough spot. You're watching the V. There's enough estrogen up here.
He was very special.
They're fanatics.
What was his name? He was called Yeshua.
The man's dead. His followers are in hiding.
He's been a threat.
Take control out there and finish things.
The tomb is sealed. Guard it with your life.
If this body vanishes, we have a potential messiah.
Where has he gone? You tell me.
You will track down the corpse of Yeshua.
What happened to the Nazarene?
He's right here. Open your heart and see.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Jefferson County Circuit Court Judge Tracy Todd issued an order talking about the death penalty and how it was being meted out in Alabama in not what she considered proper ways. But one of the other things that she said that led to perhaps people being on death row improperly, evidence being lost, witness statements not being taken, all this she pointed to the underfunding of the judicial system in Alabama. Something, Claire, that Chief Justice Roy Moore has been beating the drum for years and years and years, and they still level funded it again.
Yeah, well, he's accurate. I mean, I don't know about the judge up there, Judge Todd. I'll defer that to you, but you're right, that they have underfunded the justice system, and something has got to stop.
Well, I'll tell you, Judge Todd is a no-nonsense judge. I know several attorneys who practice in front of her, and they said that she is by the book, she is straightforward. You better have your ducks in a row if you're coming before Judge Todd. So, this is
compelling.
Right. Well, and, I don't know how many people have seen, Making a Murderer on Netflix, but read a few appeals briefs, and this stuff happens right here in Alabama all the time. It's upsetting when you see the way that evidence is mishandled, the way that cases are mishandled, and we've got people sitting on death row. It's just not acceptable.
Absolutely, and Judge Moore is saying not only are his branch now, the executive and the legislative branch are even getting raises in their branches, where the judicial branch can't even get. They just get level funded. Period.
Well,
and it's not just people not getting raises, but we're talking about people's lives that are at stake here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm for the death penalty, but if you're not guilty, you don't need to.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is
egregious that they are not funding the courts. This has been a battle that's been going on for years now, but they're willing to fund their legislative offices and keep themselves a little comfy on their stools down there.
And remodel everything.
And county court houses and for probate judge's office, and justice is delayed all the time because they don't have the money and the well-being, and it's absolutely wrong.
I mean, you look at how much money the courts bring in, too. The courts are what keep us funded.
Absolutely.
Well, Judge Todd made a compelling issue. She said that they're arbitrary and capricious the way they handle death penalties, but she said the funding is a huge issue. Justice Moore probably would disagree with Judge Todd on everything else except that the court should be funded equally with the other branch. But you think about this. They've level funded the courts. They've level funded and then they just stop funding the Attorney General's office altogether. What do these things have in common?
They don't want anybody looking down their throat, particularly on the 5th floor. We've known that all along.
Yeah.
That's why they defunded and zeroed out.
That's
the Attorney
another
General's
reason
budget.
that this has got to stop. Hubbard has got to stop controlling the state of Alabama as a felony indicted man.
Well, he's not going to stop until he's put in
But
jail.
that's why he wants justice denied, because if they don't have the money, then they can't keep the courthouses open and they can't go to trial. And people may think this is a joke, but it's a reality.
No.
Well, and remember when Senator Beeson passed the thing about you've got to have everybody there to get your tag IDs or something, and created these huge the Beeson lines at the courthouses.
Right.
Anybody who deals with the justice system on a daily basis knows the impact this has. And so even if you're trying to just get, a marriage license or a divorce or pay anything that goes through a court, it affects your life too. And the thing is, everyone else is being held up so that the speaker and his people can get their motives managed.
And it looks like now, and I don't know what's going on over at Aaliyah anymore, but that's thing, their original plan was to own the Attorney General's office, to own the governor's mansion, the state house, and the courts. Right. And they lost the courts, they lost the governor's mansion, and they lost Luther Strange. So they've been trying to get all this back ever since. And it's just turned our state into a snake pit. I mean, this orgy of greed and corruption has darn near killed us. I mean, I've never seen it in all the years of Alabama politics, not this bad.
Yeah, and I talked to, matter of fact, the last day of session on Thursday, I talked to a guy that's over to Lee, and his name remained unknown, and he said it's just been total chaos over there. It's beginning to settle down. He said, but I've been in law enforcement for 26 years, and I've never seen it this bad.
Well, when you come in and fire four or five people, lay off 4 or 5 people.
High-ranking people, too.
Or lay off a couple of people, and you've got the actual director who's had back surgery sitting at home, and they're firing his people. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, it's chaos.
And closing cases.
And
closing active investigative cases.
Not only justice getting delayed, justice getting the books shut on them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I want to...
That are egregious and should have been taken care
Well,
of.
I tell
Absolutely.
you, I just think the governor's in big trouble on this thing, but we'll see.
This deserves more than a slap on the wrist. I'm sorry.
Terry Lathan has asked that all this conspiracy, this stuff about brokered conventions, this stuff about somebody ousting this one or that one, she said, just cool it. The people will decide, right? I mean, that's what she's saying.
Well, that was a big, 2 weeks ago down in Mobile at the state GOP convention. Yes, they got up, and the national committee man got up and talked about it and said there will not be a brokered convention. So we all know that. But and I will touch on this just a little bit, and it does irritate me some, and I'm on the state executive committee, so I don't want to say it too much, but when you have known Democratic people who've given money to Hillary Clinton and other people that have done it just in the last 2 years that are on the state executive committees for the Democrats at the county and the state level, qualifying and running for Trump delegates and running for other offices, and then people that are not qualified for school boards. I hate to say this, but it falls at the feet of the executive director and the staff at GOP. They've got to vet these people. We saw it in the 2012 elections, 2014 elections, where they disqualified some people. But, they need to, when people go up there to qualify, don't just take their money and rubber stamp it. We've got the internet. You can pretty much look up anything and where anybody is and where their past has been.
Absolutely.
Or you can get pay this $15 a month, and they should do that. This is embarrassing, I think, to me as a Republican in the state party.
Well, I mean, they've welcomed a lot of Democrats, but the thing that you're saying is a little bit beyond the pale.
Actively in both,
And
right?
when talk about
when
rhinos,
it comes on both,
who's going to determine who's a rhino and who's not?
Well,
Right.
I think after the Hubbard deal, there's going to be a huge fracture in the Republican Party. I'll be interested to see how it survives. We've got about a minute. I want to get to this next thing. It'll survive, but in fractions. This no-bid prisons. Bentley has pushing a bill that will have all these new prisons built and also the refurbishing done under a no-bid contract. Susan, they keep pushing the same old. Let's build it without bidding it.
Then why have a no-bid contract law? Seriously.
To protect the people.
Yeah, whatever. We're not interested in protecting the people. And this goes back to stars. This just keeps happening over and over again.
Yeah, but
what are
these
they
guys
afraid
have
of?
they've been trying to push this bill for 3 years
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It's egregious. I mean, it's
I've
outrageous.
never seen a bill lobbied so hard is the way the contractors have lobbied on both sides for a bill.
Well,
I've never
it's
seen it.
it's billions of dollars.
Sure.
It's billions of dollars, and that's why they don't want to bid it. They want to give it to favorite sons and favorite people and all that stuff.
That have favorite high-powered lobbyists
Exactly.
in
We'll
Montgomery.
slow it down and build
from
it
the big
under-
kahunas.
All right,
and use
we're going to
some
leave it right there. You've
hard
been
materials.
watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them. Thank you again.